So, yes, U.S. college applications featuring me, myself, Sunny, and Kine. All right, let's get started then. So first, introductions. Who are we? Well, I can speak for myself. So hi, I'm Lucy Mo, and I just graduated from SEMI's IB program. So I'm going to be like a prospective student at Carnegie Mellon in the fall for computer science. And some of the hobbies that I like to do, well, I like coding and I like music. I play the violin and I also like painting, watching YouTube, and playing Minecraft. I guess that counts as a hobby. And yeah, that's a bit about me.
不是还没上学呢，早上我坐下来去上学，他跟我说去。
Uh, if everyone could mute themselves, that would help the presentation a lot. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. Sunny?
Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Sunny Ho, and I am also an IB diploma graduate from Semiahmoo Secondary, and I will be entering UCLA this fall, majoring in biology. So some of, I guess, my hobbies and extracurriculars, I've been a debater, a competitive debater since grade 8, and I'm in the cadet program. I do a lot of activities with them. Well, I guess we'll go over more of them in more detail later on when we move into the extracurricular section. I also like to draw. I do all sorts of types of arts like painting, sketching, realism, all sorts of things. And Kine, on to you.
Hey, okay, perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kine. I am a graduating student from Sentinel Secondary School in West Vancouver. I will be matriculating to Wharton this fall at the University of Pennsylvania, looking to study healthcare management and potentially pursue a pre-med track. One interesting fact about myself is that I am a private pilot, and like Sunny, I am very well immersed in the Air Cadet program. So if anyone's interested in that, I can speak a lot about that.
All right. On to our next topic then. Our high school experience. So we'll be talking about courses / how we chose our courses, how we oriented those to plan for our career, and all the special programs that we took. So like I said earlier, Sunny and I were both in the IB program. And for me, I was actually at a different high school before coming to SEMI. So I chose my courses based on like preparation for SEMI. Like honestly, grade 8 to 9 courses, you should just orient it around like what you want to, what you're interested in, like kind of discovering your own passion. Just take courses that sound good to you, although in grade 8 and 9, you don't really have many options. Um, yeah, in grade 10 though, like you can start taking summer school, your course options become like more open, especially if you take like science 10 in summer school, you can start taking all sorts of different science courses. Or if you take socials 10, then you can start taking all the humanities courses. So then your options become like a bit more varied. And for me, how I chose my courses was that in my grade 10 year, I took chemistry and physics 11, and those really helped me prepare for taking physics and chem in IB for the next 2 years. And for my electives, I also took programming because, well, I was beginning to get interested in computer science and programming, so I just grasped onto that opportunity. Um, yeah, and I knew from like quite a young age I wanted to do the IB program. So a lot of my in school courses and extracurricular studies were all like oriented to prepare me for entering IB. Yeah, on to you, Sunny.
Okay, so like Lucy mentioned, I was also in the full IB diploma program, but unlike her, I have been at SEMI since grade 8. So personally for me, I had the choice to be on either partial IB certificate or the full IB diploma program. So as for my choices of courses before grade 11, so entering IB, because I chose high level math, we had to do a course in pre-calculus 11 in preparation for that. So that's what I did. And beyond that, I also took an extra Spanish 11 course online to prepare myself for the IB Spanish, because as an elective, going to semi, the second language was something mandatory that you either take French or Spanish. And for me, I did Spanish. So I decided it would be very nice for me to have that extra experience before I went into a full IB course where the entire class consists of just like speaking a different language. As for other science courses, I did not really skip ahead in the courses. I went directly from Science 10 into my HL Chemistry 11 and Biology 11. Personally, for me, it was a pretty smooth transition, I'd say, into some. I know for a fact that Biology 11 sometimes doesn't go along the same pathway as our IB Biology 11 course because they separate on a certain like intersection, and the regular course goes one way and the IB program goes another. So it's not always necessary for you to skip ahead to learn, for example, Biology 11 or Biology 12 ahead of time. So as for my planning for a career, like I mentioned before, I'm going into UCLA for biology in the fall and going on into the pre-medicine track. This is like a for sure for me. I've wanted to become a doctor since very, very young. So all my course plannings, high school work have been all just building up onto that point that would allow me to go into a university where I can study either life sciences or biology, and then finally go into med school after the 4 years of undergraduate studies. Now, Kai.
Perfect. Before we go any further, for the host, can you make the panelist co-host and then disable voice for the participants? If that's
All
an
right,
option.
got it. That
Okay.
is an option. I'll have
Cool.
to mute everyone first and
We'll just work that out first.
mute. Okay, Kai, Lucy, Sunny, can you unmute yourselves?
Perfect. Cool. I guess
Oh,
I'll start
okay.
talking about my high school experience with courses. So aside from the main courses required you have to take in grade 8 and 9, I skipped ahead in math and science. I joined a accelerated math program at my school, which is I think it's something that's specific to my school. But I did Science 10 online. I personally do not recommend taking summer school because there are so many other things that you can be doing that will help with your university applications, and which I'll explain later. With regards to what courses I took pre-AP and AP courses in grade 11 and grade 12, and I'll just list them out. So I took AP Capstone Seminar, AP Capstone Research, AP Biology, AP Calculus AB and AP Calculus BC, AP Chemistry, AP English, and AP English Literature and AP English Language. I did AP Physics 1, AP Psychology, and AP Music Theory outside of school. And my scores so far, I got a 5 in Bio, 5 in Calculus AB, 5 in Music Theory, a 4 in Physics 1, and a 2 in Seminar. So before you get confused in the audience, the 2 was a marking mistake that was not corrected by College Board, but I decided to send my score to the colleges anyways. And I just really want to emphasize when it comes to selecting courses, please do not compare yourself to what you see with people in the United States taking 15 APs or people here taking like 12, 13 APs. It really depends on your capacity. That's why pre-AP is really important because it allows you to see whether you can handle the academic rigor of AP classes. As long as you don't drop 5% in AP, drop more than 5% in AP, I think it's an investment you should take because it shows that you're willing to take that challenge. But at the same time, if it's too difficult, you shouldn't be wasting your time on academics because university applications has transitioned far from solely being on grades and test scores. Hence why a lot of schools are not taking test scores in the future. So when it comes to my career track, I found interests in what I saw myself performing well in grade 10 and started planning for a pre-med track at the end of by the end of grade 10. I started planning to apply for the US quite late. You should not be planning to apply to the US no later than like the middle of grade 10 because that is when you need to start considering standardized testing and start focusing your extracurriculars. But applying to UPenn, I decided to apply Wharton mainly because I have a strong foundation in leadership in the Air Cadet program, and that is something that shows brighter than my STEM interests, even though I do want to go into STEM. And I'll talk about the application persona later, but it's really important to understand that you need to apply for what you look best applying as. You don't apply for what you want to. If you apply for what you want to and happen to be good at what you want to do, then that's a perfect scenario. But if you're really good at music, but you want to become a doctor, maybe you don't want to apply to Johns Hopkins for medicine, right? So other than that, that's all for me regarding high school experiences.
Right. And one more comment from me about like, actually, can you guys hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. One more comment from me about like the IB, AP, or A levels. If you guys are looking to apply to US as an international student, it is like very, very recommended that you take these. Like, I know it might sound scary for like some of you guys thinking like, oh my gosh, I have to take like 12, 13 APs, or I have to take like full IB or something. It might sound scary, but it is like a challenge that you take on for yourself. And the reason why like admissions officers like these higher level courses so much is that they show that you're able to like take on this challenge further from like just normal high school. And like I know this isn't the case for East Coast, because at the East Coast their normal high school is quite challenging, but at least for West Coast, normal high school here is pretty much a breeze, I can say, for most people. And just putting yourself up to that higher challenge, it's like it really shows admissions officers that you have a grasp on your academics. So if you're considering applying to the US, then if you're in grade 10, definitely think about like if you want to go into IB or AP or potentially both, just to, reach higher.
I'd like to
Can I
quickly
just-
add on. Oh yeah,
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
go.
No, it's okay. You go first.
Okay, sure. I'll talk because I'm with Semi being IB. I think I can offer some insight into why I prefer AP. AP is a lot of people choose AP over IB for the reason that it demonstrates academic rigor that IB also demonstrates, but it allows you to show specialization because you're allowed to choose the courses you can take, whereas IB you're slightly more restricted with regards to having to take a blanket amount of courses. And something with AP is, and IB, I think, it teaches a level of critical thinking that you can't find anywhere else in high school. And my biggest takeaway from taking AP was being able to balance the college level rigor of AP courses with my other extracurricular activities, right? If you don't do well, take your AP classes, not for the score, but to understand how to balance your time. Because ultimately, your experiences are more important when you're applying to university. When you're writing your essays, you want to have good stories to talk about. You don't need to talk about, oh, I got a 97 in AP physics. They don't care about that. They'll see that. So for my advice is to take APs if you can and try the pre-APs at your school if they are offered to see how well you will do. And like I said before, if you aren't dropping more than 5% by taking APs, it's a good investment to take because it shows that motivation at the same time, but at the same time, it teaches you how to do other stuff as well.
Yeah, just adding on to what Lucy and Kine mentioned about just IB and AP courses, I think one takeaway that I had from IB that is different from AP, I think, is if you're a diploma student, you need to engage in activities such as your extended essays, the CAS, which is your 150 hours of creativity, well, 50 hours each of creativity, activity, and then service, which is also just, I guess, in parallel with what the American universities are also looking at and what Kine mentioned about being able to balance your extracurricular activities on top of the extensive course loads, because they really want you to have a life outside of your academics, and just taking AP and IB courses shouldn't be everything that you're focusing on. And then one thing that I just like to mention is that it's extremely beneficial if you actually do take IB or AP courses. But in the meantime, it's also suggested, or at least from my perspective, that you're like, you know where you're standing, like your abilities, and you have a grasp on whether or not you can handle an IB diploma course or a partial IB or like some some AP courses, because to universities, by taking these extra or more extensive courses with a more rigorous workload, it means that you're challenging yourself. But in the meantime, they want you to be persistent with this challenge. So it means that if you actually begin your AP course or you begin an IB course, it's really suggested that you do not drop out of them. Even dropping from a full IB diploma into a partial IB, they may ask you questions as to, like, for example, why you decided to drop. Was it too much for you? Like, why did you start in the first place if you knew you can continue? So it's just really suggested, and it's really beneficial that you everyone just know their balance between your academic life and your extracurriculars, and being able to withhold that pressure and to be able to withstand that rigorous workload, and being persistent throughout grade 11, grade 12, and not dropping courses at all expenses.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess I'll move on to the next topic then. Extracurricular activities, a really big part of college applications, because as Kai mentioned before, academics, everyone can see your transcript. They say it for themselves. It's already there uploaded. But extracurriculars is like what defines you, or what they can see from your character based on your extracurricular activities. And I kind of organized into like 3 different categories. There's academic, volunteer, and leadership. So a bit about my own extracurricular activities, I guess, because college applications, they usually limit you to how many activities you can put, and you kind of have to balance the 3 of them. So for me, I believe I did teach coding, like AI, for a while. So that kind of, I wanted to show like initiative and leadership, as well as like my understanding in machine learning from that. So that was like my main thing that I wrote about for extracurriculars. So as you can see, I write about like a lot about the challenges I faced and everything. And especially since it's a program that I initiated, colleges love it when you like do something for yourself and not just follow other people's footsteps. Another academic activity I had was I did do an internship at MIT's Han Lab over the summer of 2019. And I did a lot of like computer vision things, and that kind of boosted me towards like my passion in AI and machine learning. Volunteer wise, I like to do, I forgot to add an extracurricular activity. Like the arts and stuff are also very important, arts and athletics. Anyways, volunteer wise, I'm in a lot of like community organizations like XC Hacks Mini, which is a high school hackathon organization, or like our school's Canadian Cancer Youth Society. Those are all different volunteer opportunities, and there are many around the community that it's definitely worth your time to invest in, especially if you could stick to like 1 or 2 organizations. And it's like not only for the resume, it also like helps you grow as a person as well, because you're legitimately helping the community with something. So a resume shouldn't be the only reason you do it, but it is definitely a good thing to do for your resume. And then leadership kind of ties into that as well. If you hold like a leadership position in any organizations, or like maybe the cadets like Sunny and Kind. And then arts and athletics wise, I put my arts as like violin and music theory. Those 2 were kind of like the things I focused on for arts. And I was also in my local youth orchestra for all of my high school career. So that was something that I wrote about, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah. And then athletics, I just wrote about my hobby in snowboarding and taekwondo. And yeah, that's kind of it for my extracurricular activities. And like I think that everyone has like a lot of extracurriculars that they want to do or show the admissions officers. But for me, the college application process, like you don't want to focus too much on academics. You kind of want to have a balance between all of these different aspects, because you probably hear this a lot, but colleges love well-rounded students. And it's because it's hard being a well-rounded student. If you like highlight 1 or 2 of each of these kind of categories, or even mix them into each other, like I know some activities can demonstrate many different qualities about your character. It'll be really beneficial for your essays if you choose like don't say like I got 100% in all of these courses, but rather say something like, oh, this one time I helped out at my local cafe or something, and this is what I learned from it, and I really enjoyed this human to human interaction kind of thing. Like anything like that, just to show that you're more than just grades and numbers. That's what ECs to me are on a college application. Okay, Sunny?
Okay, so I guess for me, I'm not really gonna kind of talk about my extracurricular activities in separate, because like Lucy mentioned, a lot of extracurriculars can demonstrate like multiple characters of like you personally. So in terms of my extracurricular activities, I mentioned in my introduction that I have been a competitive debater since grade 8, and I was introduced to debate in grade 8 through our school club. And ever since, I have been debating and attending many tournaments, Canadian tournaments mostly, such as like UBC, SFU, and our DSABC. So like Debate and Speech Association of British Columbia organized regionals and provincial tournaments, and have gotten some awards that I'm just not going to mention here because that's unnecessary. So in terms of debate, other than debating myself, I've also been to a professional debate academy to train. And beyond that, I'm currently the debate president of our Semiahmoo School Debate Club, and I was the vice president last year, so in grade 11. And as well, I have my own community debate club outside of school called the South Surrey Youth Effective Speaking and Debate Club. I have been a part of that for a rather long time. I started in grade 10. I think I was the president for 2 years, and it was just a student-led club that was founded by my friend that was 2 years older than me, that I took part in since the very beginning. So like Lucy said, colleges really liked where you take initiatives and you take basically your activities or your passions into your own hands and make something out of it. And this was a really good example of it because we help students from grade 5 and up in developing their effective speaking and debate skills. And because we're a student-led nonprofit organizations, the funds that we created, that we obtain are actually donated to charities. And this year, I think we were donating $3,000 to the Connects Place Children Hospice. And so as of like just volunteering within debate, I have been coaching debate since my grade 10 years. So this is actually my 3rd year being a debate coach to younger students. And in fact, I've been a teaching assistant for 1 year at a local debate academy. So that is just all my, I guess, volunteering experience within debating. And outside of debating, like I mentioned before, I'm also as part of the Air Cadet program and have been since grade 7. And within the Air Cadet program, there are many different aspects where you can basically gain. I have been part of the marksmanship team for I think 3 or 4 years, and I have been in the cadet biathlon team since grade 7 and have been to our regional, provincial, and national level competitions within the cadet program. So that's like the part of my athletic career. It was just basically part of the cadet program, being part of marksmanship and biathlon. And just for everyone who just don't know what biathlon is, it's cross-country skiing plus shooting. So we do training basically every week on the mountains at Whistler, and when there's no snow, it's just land training. Apart from that, volunteer-wise, I also volunteer at the Connects Place Children Hospice, where my debate club also donates to. It's basically a facility, a hospice facility for terminally ill children, and I volunteer at their Abbotsford location. And I've been volunteering there when I turned 16. So I think starting the summer before grade 11. And due to just COVID and the pandemic, they currently suspended volunteers. So I haven't been in approximately a year, but that's in terms of my volunteer extracurricular activities. And in terms of just hobbies, in terms of arts and things, I have been attending art lessons for a very long time. And like I mentioned before, art is one of my major hobbies. I like to paint, sketch. I draw with multiple different mediums, such as watercolor, pencil, crayon, just pencil sketching, as well as acrylic painting. And that's basically one of the major mechanisms in which I use to express creativity and also make myself, I guess, a more well-rounded student. And in terms of leadership, I think Kine mentioned this before, the cadets program really builds you upon leadership. They teach you all the necessary aspects of being a good leader and how to become a good leader. And you also have the experience and the hands-on experience into actually, for example, I'm part of Air Cadets. And I led a flight of maybe 20 or 30 people. And also I was the level senior, which I led an entire level of cadets of the same age, which was also around like 20 or so. So that is just really good experience in terms of leadership wise. And I think I really gained from the experience, and it really helped me build character and as well build the ability to both initiate certain activities, plan, organize, and just be able to withhold all those responsibilities. And like I mentioned before, other places that I also demonstrate leadership is that I've been the vice president of our school debate club last year and the president this year, and as well as the president for 2 consecutive years of a community debate club that I co-founded outside of school. And those are all places where I utilize the skills that they taught me in cadets and built on them further and basically put them into act to be able to organize the entire club, to coordinate between different levels, and to finally make our impact within the community. And in terms of extracurricular activities, I think this is also because I don't really have that many academic extracurricular activities that is related to my subject or like my major. I think what I want to say regarding this is that it's not always necessary that you have to have an extracurricular that is associated with your major. For example, the only thing that I have is volunteering at a children's hospice and helping the terminally ill children there. And other than that, because I have a lot of just interests and hobbies in general, I put forth a lot of my times into investing in these passions and these extracurriculars that are outside of my potential major. And I think that's also something that's extremely valuable as well, because instead of just focusing on one area, the universities or the college boards, they know that, oh, this person has all these interests, all these hobbies, they are able to develop certain skills within these different aspects. For example, debate provides this environment where you need to think critically, you need to problem solve at a very fast rate. You can basically improve on your reading, writing, your communications, your effective speaking skills, as well as your researching skills for certain debate formats. And these are all things that just pure academics or academic related activities can bring to you. So I guess my advice is to never be afraid to invest time and effort into these activities that are not always related to your prospective major, because it is beneficial to a great extent. And Kai, if you would like to continue.
Perfect. So before I talk about my extracurricular activities, I'll talk about the mindset of me behind why I selected these extracurricular activities. So if there's something you're going to take away from this panel for applying to the United States, this is it. So probably want to listen to this. There's one thing that admissions officers look for, and it's called an application persona. I've consulted former admissions officers from Stanford, Yale, and Dartmouth, and this is the one thing that they've all said the same. You want to present yourself as a focused person with a well-rounded personality. Well-rounded does not mean go take 50 different extracurriculars and dip your foot in everything. Well-rounded means you develop a skill set through thoroughly pursuing a couple extracurricular activities. And that is exactly what I did. If you look at my application, you can see two main sections. One is the leadership aspect of cadets, and the other is music. So when it comes to cadets, I'll read off essentially what I said about my experience in cadets. I am a squadron commander for one of the Air Cadet squadrons, and run the leadership training for over 80 cadets. I'm a private pilot and a tow pilot in training. I was the National Precision Drill Team Commander, and I was a National Airport Operations Scholarship recipient. And these are just a sample of what I wrote about my cadet experience. And then when it comes to music, I completed the associate diploma in the Royal Conservatory of Music for piano, which is ARCT. And that's essentially it. My entire application has been centered around a focus around leadership and discipline with a side interest of like music, right? And some other smaller extracurriculars that aren't as important. But if you really want to be as competitive as the people applying in the US, you really need to focus on one or two extracurricular activities and do it to the best of your ability. It's one thing joining cadets, but it's another thing getting to such a high level. It's one thing doing piano, but completing level 10 and completing ARCT, that's what sets you apart, right? So again, application persona, we call this well-rounded with spike. And I edited a lot of essays. After I got into early decision into UPenn, I helped a lot of peers apply for university. And they got into UMich, Penn, Northwestern, Carnegie. And one thing they have in common is that they're well-rounded people, but they have a spike for focus. They apply for what they can best display themselves as. If you saw like the flyer for this seminar, you saw that I was in full uniform with 3 medals. Like that is an embodiment of essentially my extracurricular life as a cadet. Leadership, discipline, and military values. And that's something that allowed me to apply to Wharton. I wanted to go pre-med. I could have applied to Penn's School of a College of Arts and Science. I didn't decide to, even though Wharton is 10 times harder to get into. It's because my persona, my resume, like what I've done fits better with what this program wants. And that's all I have.
Right. Guess I'll move on to the next point then. So the application process, I guess, yeah, I'll just go over these a bit since they're all kind of the same. So US mainly has like 4 different platforms. The most common one is Common App, as the name implies. Basically, everyone has to write a personal statement or like your personal essay or something. They'll give you prompts, but it's usually about like your interest, or it's a 600-ish, 700-ish word essay that just talks about yourself. You could talk about any aspect. And then universities there who use the Common App can then ask additional questions, and then yeah, they'll choose their own questions, and they're different every year, at least for most universities. And then Common App also requires you to have 10 different extracurricular / academic / awards and everything, and you have to choose them based on like the importance, and you also have to provide like a little description about like what you specifically did. Common App, most universities also require you to have 2 teacher references. So if you think about, usually like they ask you to have like a science and a humanities, or like 2 contrasting subjects for it. So a really, really good idea is to think about like really early on who you want to ask, and do well in their class, don't cause trouble, and ask them early. Give them like a lot of time so they can write the best letter they can about you. That's kind of Common App. Did any of you guys apply using Coalition?
No.
Nope.
All right. I know I think UT Austin uses Coalition, and a lot of schools accept either Common App or Coalition, but since none of us used it, I guess we'll just skip over that. It's pretty much the same thing, except they probably have like a slightly different requirements. And the third platform is UC. So California has their own application process, and you can apply to like the different schools from the platform itself. And you don't have to write a personal essay for UCs, but you do have to choose 4 out of the 8 questions that I give you and answer it. And they're quite long essays. I believe like 300, 400-ish words. and then I think they also give you unlimited space for your extracurriculars, but it's also like, as Kai mentioned before, don't put like 20 different extracurriculars. Like, you want to be able to show them that you have a focus, and yeah, just don't touch on everything. Choose your best ones. Choose the ones that can best represent you and obviously what you're applying for, and put those in. So I would say a healthy number would be like 8 to 12 extracurriculars for the UCs. Yeah, and then some schools have their individual platforms as well. And one of the examples is MIT, if any of you guys are interested in applying. And then a bit about like the US timeline. So I did see some questions like asking for like EDs and stuff. So ED stands for early decision and EA stands for early action. And these are generally due by November 1st. You want to be able to, well, first of all, do your research on the colleges that you want to apply to, because some of them have ED, which means you if you get accepted, then you have to go, or restrictive early action, which means like if, well, it's different for every college, but some of them like Stanford's, like if you apply here for early action, we accept you, you don't have to go, but you're not allowed to apply anywhere else for early action. And then you have like MIT and Caltech and a few others who are like, yeah, we'll just take your application early. You can apply anywhere else if you want. So all of the early decisions and actions are different for a lot of the schools. So it really like, you really got to make sure, because some decisions are binding, some aren't. And if you get into a school but you don't want to go, but it's binding, then you kind of have to go. So yeah. And of course, the timeline's for November 1st. So most of you who will be applying for the next season, start thinking about, if you haven't already, like what schools you want to do the early actions into. And then UCs have a bit of a different schedule. Their applications are usually due at the end of November. So also keep an eye out for that. And then the results for early decision and early action will be like from December to January, usually mid-December for most of them. And they'll tell you if you got accepted, if you got rejected, or if you got deferred. Deferred just means that your application will be put into the pool of the regular applications as well. So they'll reconsider it. Yeah, and if you got into ED or EA, you can make a decision and you don't have to apply to RD anymore if you're like kind. And RD is just regular decisions. So most of them are due like January 1st, or I know Michigan is due like February or something. Yeah, so regular decision, most of your schools will be applying through like here, and they'll give you your results in spring. So probably March to April. And if there's another thing that I forgot to add here, but it's called being waitlisted. If you're waitlisted, it just means that they think you're a good fit, but they don't have enough space. So they want you, but they don't want you enough, basically. And what the waitlist is for is because like a lot of, amazing people, they'll get into like all of the top universities or something, but they can only choose one. So the waitlist is there in case like not enough people are going to the school, they'll let in like another group of people to go towards the school. And the waitlist results are usually in May, and they sometimes go on to June as well. And I think National Decision Day for US is May 1st. Yeah, you just got to make your decision by then. But sometimes if you get unwaitlisted after May, after the National Decision Day, then you just don't get your money back for paying the like whatever fee they ask you to pay. But you can still switch schools. Yeah, that's kind of the application process. Do you guys have anything to add on?
I can add in a bit more detail for the UC applications. For the University of California applications, like Lucy mentioned, they have their separate system consisting of 9 separate universities, and they're Berkeley, Davis, Irvine, LA, Riverside, San Diego, San Francisco, Santa Barbara, and Santa Cruz. So if you want to apply for example, USC, which is University of Southern California, they have their separate system, and Stanford, which is also in California, they have their separate system as well. So the UC system doesn't actually encompass the entire state of California, but only the 9 universities that have the heading UC. And as for the actual like application, like writing your essays, paragraphs, etc., Lucy mentioned that you don't need to write like per se an essay. They have 8 questions, which you are able to choose 4 questions based on your own will to answer, and they're around 300 to 500 words. So it's really just like a really long paragraph, or probably you should do like 2 medium-sized paragraph in order to answer these questions. And you do not need a reference letter from any of your teachers. And actually you, in terms of submitting your grades, you submit it yourself. For example, for me, when I did my UC applications, I submitted my IB predicted scores, and they also looked at your scores starting from, I think, grade 8 to 9. They require you to actually like fill in all of your grades, all the courses that you took within their system, so they get an idea of what choices of courses that you made, and your consistencies in terms of grades from basically the start of high school. And in terms of the 8 questions and the 4 to answer, I can tell you the 4 that was last year that I chose, just to give everyone an idea. And mainly the UC applications, they give you these 8 questions, and you should probably choose 4 that are addressing slightly different areas, because they make and they design these 8 questions in order to basically assess you on like all around in terms of both your leadership, your academic abilities, your extracurricular, how well you're able to suit it into university life, how you're able to balance your extracurriculars, your hobbies, as well as your academic endeavors. So the 4 questions that I personally had was, first of all, describe an example of your leadership experience in which you have positively influenced others, helped resolve disputes, or contributed to group efforts. And the second one is, every person has a creative side, and it can be expressed in many ways: problem solving, original and innovative thinking, and artistically, to name a few. Describe how you express your creative sides. The third one is, describe how you have taken advantage of significant educational opportunity or worked to overcome an educational barrier you have faced. And the fourth one is basically, describe the most significant challenge you have faced and the steps you have taken to overcome this challenge. How has this challenge affected your academic achievements? So you can see that these 4 questions are all around the different topics. And yeah, I'm done. We can move on.
All right. Yeah, so choosing universities. Most people describe it as like, okay, I'll talk a bit about this. Most people describe it as like, you have your fit universities, which are like you'll most likely get into and you'll want to go. You have your reach universities, which are like MIT, Stanford, those kinds. And then you have your safety universities, which is self-explanatory. So most people, like a lot of the different websites and people I talk to, they recommend that you apply to like, probably like, don't apply to that many, don't apply to like however many I've applied to. You want to have like probably 8 to 10 universities if you're applying to US. Just have like a good mix of reach, safety, and fit universities. And because one, if you did what I did and applied to 10 reach universities, you won't get into any of them. And I mean, you might get into some of them, but I didn't get into any of them. And I ended up burning myself out during that academic like application process. It was just kind of a mess. So I know that a lot of like essays are reusable, but it's still like a lot of essays you have to write. A lot of schools give you like 2 to 3 prompts. So yeah, that's kind of like my bit to say about like what types of universities you should apply to. But also a really big factor is like you have to look at what major you're applying to, and based on like maybe your own passions, based on your extracurriculars, you should probably have decided that by now before like choosing what universities to apply to. And for example, the school that I'm going to, Carnegie Mellon, their CS is pretty good, but if you're going to take like their humanities program or like their engineering program, maybe it's not as good. So it really depends on like what school you're applying to. Like some other universities I got into were like Michigan for CS, Hopkins for CS. But again, if you got into Hopkins for biomedical engineering, it's just like so much better. They literally have the top program. So but for CS, it's not as good, even though their overall ranking is like top 20, top 10, I don't know. I still chose like Carnegie over Hopkins because, again, I'm going to CS and they have a better program. So when choosing your universities, don't just look at the QS rankings. You have to also look into like your major, what rankings are there. You have to look into like I guess campus size is also a big factor, and then like location if it matters to you, and faculty, researchers, like all of that kind of different things. You want to choose a university that's fit for you, not fit for like the general public and what they deem to be like, oh, a really good university. And yeah, that's kind of for me. You guys want to talk a bit?
I can go next. So for me, the situation was actually pretty special because in the very beginning, I did not aim for the United States at all. I didn't take any standardized testing, no SATs, no ACTs, none of that, because I didn't plan to go to the States at all. So all of my safety schools were, I think, the 6 schools that applied in Canada. And I actually only applied to 2 schools in the States, which is UCLA and Berkeley. And if you just compare the two, UC Berkeley actually doesn't have a medical school, and their biology program is like below UCLA's biology program. So like Lucy mentioned, when you're choosing which school you go to, it's also extremely important to just look at your major and like just the pathway after that. So I guess a suggestion for people who are wishing to pursue a med career and who want to apply for med school, it's really important to actually choose a university where they have a med school program, where you can get, for example, recommendation letters within your own school from your school professors that have like this med school, and also just undergraduate like majors, which have a corresponding master's in, for example, biology or like pre-med program or like a good med school. It's also really important because it's something just to be able to look forward to as well. So I think the major decision for me when choosing universities is whether or not I wanted to stay in Canada or go to the States. And this is, I guess, more useful for people who want to go into like health related or medical related careers. Is that the main reason that I decided to go to the States with my only decision or my only choice was UCLA because I only applied, is that actually a lot of people think that if you want to pursue a med career, you should probably stay in your own country because there's more opportunities and there's like international restrictions on certain medical schools. Although that is true, if you are a Canadian citizen, for example, or you went to high school in Canada and you go to the States for medical school, they have this certain percentage restriction on you, and it's a lot harder to get in comparatively. But that's not always the case when you're evaluating the different sectors. It's because Canada only has, I think, 16 medical schools versus in the United States, they have like 152. So if you just look at the amounts of medical schools that you can apply to, it's actually there's a lot more abundance of spots in the United States. And so comparatively, it's actually easier to actually apply to med schools in the United States. And that's also something to consider when you're applying to your undergraduate, because if you take your undergraduate in a particular country, the likelihood of you getting into a master's program, a med school in that particular country is higher than if you go international after your undergraduate. So if you go into your undergraduate studies in the United States, it's far more likely that you get into an American medical school versus if you took your undergraduate in Canadian university and you wanted to apply for an American med school after that. So I guess I'm not going to waste anyone else's time with this detailed explanations of how to proceed with a medical career. If anyone just has any questions regarding this field, if they wanted to go into biology, if they wanted to pursue anything pre-med, you can just always ask me questions during the Q&A session.
Cool.
Kine, if you have anything to
I'm
add.
going to quickly wrap up because we're running low on time. But since I got admitted into early decision, I'll just briefly talk about my approach to applying to US universities. So I applied to Reach and then one safety because my opinion is that if you're not going to one of the reach schools that you wanted to apply to, you might as well go to a Canadian school, just because overall the costs and the opportunities are just as, if not better, than your safety or target schools in the United States. So I applied to Stanford, UPenn, UChicago, and the UCs before I got into early decision. And I was planning to apply to just 5 or 6 more. If you're someone who's very focused, you should not apply to more than 10 schools. Because I know everyone's very caught up on applying to the US. It's not as hyped as you think it is. The school education system is just as, if not better in Canada, unless you're attending the very top schools. So save money, save the stress, and just do your research.
All right, so that sums up our presentation for our high school university students. Tristan, if you would like to start presenting now, that would be great. You can talk about your experiences in post-secondary. Oh, okay. I'll ask you to unmute.
Thanks. Thank you. And hi everyone. Wow, there's a lot of people here. This is really exciting. It's great to be back at SEMI, sort of. And thanks everyone for coming. And also apologies if I keep doing this. I'm outside and there's a lot of bugs trying to bite my face. Right. So I'm gonna share my screen, and there we go. Hopefully you can all see that.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess before I start, I'll just say to pop a question in the chat or to just interrupt me, because I'm here to answer, what you guys are wondering about. So that might work better just with questions, and I'll be pretty quick, hopefully, with my presentation here, so we can have tons of time for Q&A after. When do I have until, or when are we going until, by the way?
You can take as long as you want. We would like to have at least 30 minutes for Q&A at least, so probably end at 4:30-ish.
Okay. Yeah, that probably that should work. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, it's great to be here. I don't know how much you guys know about about me. I graduated from SEMI in 2012, which is like 9 years ago now, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, I'm just going to quickly walk through some of the things that I've done since then, and then and talk a little bit about them. But like, I'm mainly talking about them just so you guys sort of know what things you can ask me about. But you can ask me about anything, anyways. I'm here, and I'll I can drop my email as well. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna do that right now. I'm gonna drop my email in the chat right now. So feel free to get in touch afterwards with questions too, and I'm always happy to help. So there you go. But yeah, I'm just gonna start. So this is sort of a bit about life after high school, I guess, and I can go into more specific advice for things if you guys like. So first of all, I'll just start with life at SEMI and what that was like. So I did math, chem, physics, HL, which I think a lot of people do. And here's just some nice pictures from Mr. Moziva's geo class. This was dry grad, and then here's a picture of me with Mr. Halabi at graduation. So that was, yeah, it was a really good time. And I'd say the main thing that I took from my time at SEMI and a lot of the teachers and other people I was with was learning to really work hard and learning that it's really worth it to find something that you care about and work hard on, provided you can keep your head on straight while doing it. So, you don't want to lose sight of everything else. But working hard is worth it for things. With regard for schools and stuff, applied for Cambridge. To be honest, a little bit on a whim. I hadn't really thought about it that much before doing it, but I did it, and
Tristan,
and really lucked out with a lot of the stuff. Yeah.
can I say something
Yeah.
right now? I think you're lagging a little, so if you turn off your camera, maybe that'll help stabilize the audio.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Hopefully this works a bit better. I'm sorry, I'm kind of in the middle of nowhere right now, and there's not very good there's not very good mobile reception. Is that
No
better?
worries. Yep, it's better.
Okay, cool. Right, so yeah, that's my quick sort of thing for life at Semi. I guess when it came to exams and stuff, I think that was when I really sort of worked out how important it is to like have a process for the things that you do, and like have a schedule for yourself, and be sort of organized about what you're doing. And I think having that schedule means not just having a schedule for work, but also having a schedule for breaks as well. And then also just about exams, and if you can, the best way to study for them is with like past papers. You can like read and review your notes all you like, but I think probably the best way for me anyways was just to do actual past exams. Right, so I'm going to move on now to life in undergrad. I've just put some pictures up here that are not super academic, but just a bit of fun. So I did mechanical engineering, or I guess it was kind of mechanical and aero engineering, really, at Cambridge. I was at Pembroke College, for if anyone cares about colleges. And I would say like my academic experience there, at least compared to like other people that I've talked to, I think the degree there is very theoretical, and it's quite tough. I mean, like I'd say the exams there are pretty hard, but I think IB prepares you pretty well for that. So I would say first year exams were probably about on par with some IB exams, I guess. Yeah, and then also this is just more a general point about the UK and the structure of undergrad in the UK, but you don't get much flexibility outside your program, right? So I wanted to do engineering, and that's basically all I did for the 4 years. And the first year, you basically have no choice. The second year, you have a little bit of choice. And then the third and fourth years, you get a lot of choice. But all those choices are still, they're still within engineering. So, you have to, hopefully you kind of know what you want to do. And it's okay if you don't, but it is just a bit narrow in terms of what you can do. But I think because of that, they're able to provide really good teaching. Like the teaching is really focused. And just say the overall quality of teaching, like now having a bit of time to, yeah, so I guess that's that's a really quick overview. I know I probably glossed over a lot of points there, but that's what the Q&A is for. So please, think about more specific things you want to ask me. And then just talking a bit about some extracurriculars and how that sort of shaped my experience afterwards. Because I guess for me, like undergrad, like a big chunk of it was school, but also a pretty significant chunk was doing other things, because there's tons of stuff to do. And I remember we always joked that you could go there and just do a whole degree in not doing a degree, and just in doing other things. I think that's really true, and I think there's a lot of value to that. So the first, I would say, well, not the first, I actually got involved in my third and fourth years, but Probably my most significant extracurricular was working with the Cambridge Development Initiative. So that's sort of an international development organization that works with university students in Tanzania, as well as university students in Cambridge, to work on like a bunch of different projects. So that was pretty cool. The projects were really interesting, and I think that was because they're complex, because sort of international development projects are complex. They're very messy. They're hard to implement well. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And I think that's what made it really interesting and made this a really fulfilling experience. And I got a lot of experience running a project and leading a team. And I think I really learned at that point that leading a team, is more than just project management. It's more than just sort of having a, having a schedule and things like that. It's more. There's an important person side to it as well, I think. And I think, that experience, you'd be pretty hard pressed to get that just from doing things in school. Or just say volunteering for an organization. Well, I mean, I was volunteering, but just sort of being a volunteer to do things, but actually sticking around and working to get into a leadership position is like, yeah, it's hard to get that experience anywhere else. And another, oh, and by the way, the top picture is just a picture of a bunch of people in Cambridge Development Initiative. The second one that I'll talk about is the ECOS Initiative. So this was similar. It was sort of an engineering type consultancy for transitional housing in Latin America. So I'd say also interesting, complex projects. I think for me, I got involved in this earlier actually. So the order here's a bit backwards, but I learned how to do things that are sort of actually useful, I guess, compared to, say doing things in school where you're doing a project. It's you're doing the project to do the project, right? Whereas this, you're doing whatever you're doing because some organization like actually needs something from you, right? Like you're solving an actual problem of something people are actively thinking about. So you think about you might approach the problem in different ways, and you're not just looking to tick boxes. Hopefully, you're looking to actually solve the problem, and I can kind of expand what the solutions look like, which is really cool. So again, experiences like this, I think you're kind of hard pressed to get them just within school. Another thing I got involved with, less career-based, is music. It's a picture down there. It was, yeah, I played a lot of music in high school before, but not really that much in a band. So playing in a band was a lot of fun. Like in a band just with friends and stuff. Yeah, just generally a good time. So, not all your extracurriculars have to be going towards a certain goal. I think it's really important to have things that are just a lot of fun that you can do and, meet people and stuff. Rowing, I guess I mainly learned that mornings are not my thing, but it's also good to have an extracurricular that is, active, that gets you moving, and keeps you in shape, and, another good way to meet people. Basketball, I got a free hoodie, which was, but I'm happy to talk more about either of those. The Engineering Society in particular, there's some cool things, but I was mainly involved in running their social events. So moving on then. So this is life after undergrad now. So I graduated in 2016 from Cambridge, and then I got a job doing engineering consulting at a firm called the Technology Partnership. So I guess what was really cool about this is that And this is now starting to be kind of mid miles away for you guys, because this is now several years out, but I'll talk about it briefly anyways. But an engineering consultancy, as opposed to say other engineering companies, you might get to do a lot more things. So I was, in the lab actually making things, but I was also, running projects and going out and talking to companies and doing some business development. So that was, having variety again there was really key, I think. So, while I think I got a lot of variety in undergrad from doing a lot of extracurriculars, like I wanted variety in my job as well. So I think that was really valuable. See, what picture do I have here? Oh yeah, that's if you go on their company website, there's a picture of me riding a bike on it. That's I just thought that was kind of funny. But anyways, that job, I ultimately wasn't very passionate about it. So I worked there for about 3 years. But yeah, I just I think it was good for some experience in sort of the business world and learning how things work there. But ultimately, it wasn't, I wasn't super excited about it. So I made a change. And okay, well, the change comes in the next slide, sort of. But also during this time, I founded an international NGO that was basically growing out the Cambridge Development Initiative's work. So this is an NGO that we work with university students around the world in a bunch of different universities. And I guess starting this up with some other people was really cool, because I also got to do a bit of everything. It was, my organization, well, still is. And so I got to, recruit people and go out and meet a lot of people and do some fundraising and do, high level strategy stuff, as well as day-to-day operations. And this was a most of time. So, I was passionate about it. I still am. I'm still working on it, although in a less involved role now. But I never had enough time for it. So it's something I'm glad I had, but I was never really able to give it enough time. Other things, again, keeping with maybe a theme here of I think it's important to have things that keep you active. Just getting out of the house and doing stuff has always been pretty valuable for me. So biking, great way to go on adventures with friends. There you go. And kept doing some music as well. That top picture, just as again, just as something that has absolutely nothing to do with my career or anything, but just something that's something that I enjoy. Right. So I mentioned that I wasn't really that passionate about my job, so I wanted to change. And I thought for a long time about what I wanted to do, and that was kind of informed a lot by some of my more diverse experiences in undergrad, which is why now I look back at them and really see how valuable they were, how they were probably, well, it's hard to say, but in some ways a lot more valuable than the academics themselves. So right now I'm doing a technology and policy master's at MIT. So the cool thing about that is that you have a lot of freedom to do sort of kind of whatever you want. Well, not whatever you want, but you have a lot of latitude in terms of what you can do in terms of courses and in terms of research. So which was good for me at this time, because I knew I wanted to do something different, but I still wanted to sort of work on, well, I wasn't sure exactly what. So I got involved in a research position. Oh, sorry, that's another point here. I don't know to what extent this is MIT wide. I found that the teaching has been like a bit hit or miss. I think some of the teaching has been really good. Like there was a like the stuff that you would expect MIT to be really good at, like say like machine learning and stuff. Like the teaching quality for that was really good. But for some other things, I would say it wasn't as good. And I think this is kind of a result of like just the different style, I think, of American universities versus British ones. Again, this is this is going out on a limb here, but I think you have a lot more freedom to do a bunch of different things. So there's like a pretty broad offering of things you can do, and that changes around quite a bit. But I think because it's a little bit less curated, there's a little bit less control on quality. But that's just my guess. I would say overall the teaching was still pretty good, and the courses are really good as well. Or they've been valuable despite sometimes teaching not being as good. Anyways, like I said, I got a research position at the Humanitarian Supply Chain Lab, and that's where I'm working now. I'm working this summer to finish my thesis. I'll be graduating in September. So that fits in with my research work that basically work basically for, well, it's kind of, well, it's closer to a consultancy really. Like we work for sort of clients, do research projects for them, and then my thesis is sort of based around what those projects are doing. And the big plus here is that it's working on very applicable stuff and is less academic. So these are, again, actual problems that need actual solutions. Yeah, I guess it's, it feels less academic. And to be honest, that's kind of what I was looking for. I wasn't super ready to go back into something really academic when I went back to school. So it's worked out well for me. And just a couple of projects that I've worked on. So one is with USAID Uganda for agriculture market systems. So basically food security broadly in Uganda. And right now I'm working with the ICRC, which is the International Committee of the Red Cross, on commodity supply chains in Northeast Nigeria and assistance modality. So that's basically how humanitarian organizations decide to do what they do. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on now. And then life next, the big question, of course. I would say ask me again in a few years, but really, hopefully that'll be somewhere in the humanitarian space where I can sort of leverage the different skills that I've built over the past few years doing a bunch of different things. So, you may have noticed that the things that I've done haven't, perfectly lined up and haven't formed a super clear linear path. And I think that's what life is like. And I think that's what makes things interesting. And I will wrap up with just a couple bits of advice. I don't like giving advice, but I will give some. And if you want more, you can ask more questions. So first of all, for academic things, I was at times quite a perfectionist, I think, and gradually learned that 80% is good enough. And sometimes 80% is all you'll be able to do. Or sometimes it'll be even less than that you're actually able to do because you're busy with other things, but that's okay. So 80% is good enough. And by 80%, I don't mean like a test score that is 80%. I mean, if you're doing an assignment, you don't have to get it to exactly 100% perfect. Getting it to 80% of perfect is good enough. And then I think I mentioned this earlier, but when you're doing work, having a routine and a schedule for yourself is good. And part of that is scheduling breaks. So I remember in exams in undergrad, like preparing for them was it's pretty stressful, right? Like it's a lot of work. But I think what got me through is basically making sure that I scheduled breaks for myself. A break to go to the pub or a break to watch a movie or go for a run or whatever. And then this is a pretty long statement. probably should have trimmed this down. A lot of the most useful stuff you won't learn in the class or in the library, so don't spend all your time there. I think I've sort of already talked a little bit about this theme, but for me, I think a lot of my most valuable experiences have been from doing things that are not within the confines of an academic program, because problems that were valuable experience. And one final slide, just some more general points. First of all, you and who you are is not derived from your academics and or your career. Life is way more than that. And it can be easy to just get wrapped up in just school, or just your job and worrying about things like that. But and it can be hard to remind yourself that there's more to life than that. But there is more to life than that. So try to remember that. I try to. Sometimes I forget as well. Change is always possible. I was in a job for 3 years that was had a lot of good things in it, but ultimately I wanted to change, and it's a lot of effort to do that, right? To leave something that's paying you and that is a pretty comfortable life, but it's possible to do that. It's never too late. So remember that as well. And then finally, I guess, on top of all that, I would just say, life isn't just about getting to the next point and doing the next thing and succeeding at the thing. It's just about living, enjoy things along the way that you're doing. When you're in school, it's not just about graduating and doing well in that, although that's important, but you also want to enjoy your time. And the same goes for the rest of life, I think, because life is short and you can't spend all your time worrying about what's going to happen next. So
enjoy the process. Enjoy
yeah,
the process. Yeah, you only get to live.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've got a few questions for you. Are you finished presenting?
Yeah, go.
Okay, so
I'm done. This is the last slide.
All right, sweet. So how important was it for you to have a strong network of support?
Well, very, very, all the time. I guess what do you mean by network of support?
Like connections. So people who bring up opportunities to you, those who you work with to start working on applicable stuff and so on. So do you have any tips for future students entering university to, I guess, meet people like that?
Yeah, I guess, so network of, well, yeah. I guess for a lot of things, yeah, that is really important. Like in work, I would say, like building a professional network, but I mean, that's now a few years out for you guys. But in school, keep your eyes out for things, and don't hesitate to email someone, and don't hesitate to email them again if they don't reply. Being persistent can be useful for that. Yeah, I guess for jobs and stuff, and for grad school later, I guess a lot of my connections there were, from personal things, like they weren't purely professional connections. A lot of people that I would, just consider friends have been really useful for things as well. So it's not just networking, but yeah.
I see. All right. Well, what are some factors students should consider when choosing which university to attend? Some of our speakers from earlier on, so Lucy and Sunny, they mentioned that students should try to look at which program they're interested in as soon as possible and choose their university accordingly. Do you have anything else to add upon that? you've got a lot more experience, so perhaps you could give us some more insight.
I think, well, okay, this is maybe dodging the question, I think, but you know, the choice of where to go is, you know, it's a big one for your life. You know, that being said, I think it is possible and pretty likely for you to get wherever you're going to be going, regardless of what choice you make. Like, I think if there's something that you want to go do, you'll be able to do it, whether you go to school A or school B, I think, if you have a choice there. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. But yeah, I mean, I guess another thing to keep in mind is that when you're going to school, I mean, that's something that you're moving to and you're going to live, which is something that I didn't really think about. And I went really far away, and it worked out, you know, it was a good time and everything. But that's something that I hadn't thought about. So yeah, you know, thinking about like more than just the school, like thinking about where the school is actually located and stuff, you know, like if you think you would want to be at a school that has a, you know, a city campus, like if you think you'd want to be, you know, downtown, or whether you'd prefer a campus that's quieter and somewhere else, or and also like just the type of city that you might be going to, you know, what is the city like?
I see.
Yeah.
All right. Fun question. What type of music do you play on the guitar or the bass? Do you play jazz, classical, rock, or a mix of everything?
Yeah, a bunch of different stuff. I don't know. When I was growing up, I played classical piano, as many people do, and I think that was cool. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of work, but later on, I learned to do different things. So it's mainly just like in undergrad, it was mainly like rock and pop or whatever music people wanted to listen to. Really, we were just looking to give people a good time. Yeah, but I've been trying to play more jazz recently. It's very hard.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
very hard to learn.
All the chords.
Yeah.
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 All right.
Yeah, definitely.
I think now would be a good time to start getting our guests to bring up some questions for our speakers. So if anyone has any questions for our speakers, you can type them out in chat. And Lucy, Sunny, Kyan, if you have anything that you want to ask Tristan about, or if you just want to talk about some of your experiences in high school more extensively, you could do that right now. Okay, we have a question in chat. Hi, I'm looking for a major in the field of biology/health science. My dream university is pretty competitive. Is it better to focus on competitions or research? Which one is considered more valuable to the admission officer? This is from Kelly Jin.
Well, you go ahead.
No, you go first. You go first. You gather my thoughts first.
Okay. I think it depends from university to university. Maybe I think between the UK and the US, I think there are differences. My understanding is that the US is just, or that the UK is just very like grades focused in terms of who gets in. Beyond that, I'm not sure though.
Right. For me, I personally, I didn't focus too much on competitions because it's like whatever you learn in school, right? You could use that towards competitions. If you want to go through that extra training just in order to do the training, then I mean, sure, go for it. But personally, I think research is more meaningful because you're actually contributing to like learning something new or discovering something. You're not just doing it for like the title of I did this competition and got this place, but you're actually saying like I wanted to participate in finding or discovering something new. So in terms of like in terms of college applications, if like obviously competitions are like very impressive if you do well in them, but if it's not like your strong suit, if you're like kind of on the same level for both of them, I would say try looking for research opportunities because they're just a lot more meaningful for like both writing on your college apps and for your like personal development. And I'm sure that like you as a individual and the admissions officers will know that like research is like really meaningful.
Yeah, I think Kind mentioned earlier on that I think at the end of the day, if you're doing one of these activities, so either competition or research, make sure that you're really passionate about it and you focus on it. That will really help your university application essays out because, again, the admission people, they want to see that you have contributed to this project of yours and you were actively participating and you learn something from it. That's what they want to see from you. So just make sure that you're doing something that you're really, really interested in and it'll all be good. Okay, our next question is from Grace. So she's asking, for Lucy and Sunny, did you take any AP courses outside of school / the IB program?
Personally, no, because again, in terms of AP and IB courses, they do add up on your resume, for example, and to demonstrate your academic abilities. But universities look at a lot more than just your extracurriculars. And to be honest, personally, I don't think it's really necessary to do both because whether you're taking the IB or the AP, both like types of courses, they already consist of a lot of rigorous workloads. So just by taking one of them, I think it would be enough to just demonstrate you taking up a challenge in your academic endeavors.
Yeah, I didn't take any APs either, but I know that it's really popular for like people to take both like a few AP courses that you don't have in your IB just to show that you're like well-rounded or something. Like APCS is a popular one. But again, as Sunny said, IB is already very sufficient enough. If you can't ensure that you'll get or you do as best as you can in IB while focusing on extracurriculars, then don't do APs. Like rather than spending time on going for like another AP exam, you could be doing like, I don't know, research opportunities or some other extracurriculars that will in like overall be more meaningful to you as an individual and for your application.
All right. Okay, our next question is from Anpa. They ask, I have a question for Tristan. I also want to go into aeronautical / mechanical engineering path. How valuable would acquiring a power pilot's license be?
Yeah, is that like a license to fly planes? Sorry, I
Yes.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be cool. I wish I could fly a plane, but I don't know how useful that would be for school, I think.
It's definitely a hobby that some people pursue in post-secondary. I know one of my friends, he flies his own planes around here and there. All right, our next question is from Kelly Jinga. She asked, would anyone like to share their SAT score and GPA?
Sure.
I honestly don't remember.
I'll actually add on to what Lucy talked about when it comes to GPA. So my GPA, well, we don't have a GPA system at my school, so I'll just talk about my grade 9 to 11, just average. It was a 95.1. It dropped from a 97, but I decided to let go of 2% of my average to pursue more meaningful work. And that's something that is really important. It's similar to marginal utility, which is like, would you rather put 4 more hours in to study and get that extra 0.5% or spend those 4 hours doing something meaningful? Anyways, that was sort of a different path. SAT scores, and I did the ACT, so I got a 34 on my composite ACT, and I got a 10 on the writing. My SAT subject test, I got a 800 in math, 780 in physics, and I got a 710 in bio, but I didn't end up sending bio. Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. How about Lucy or Sunny?
Yeah, for me, fun fact, my SAT got canceled 5 times. Like I put in a year and a half of preparation into SATs, memorizing vocab, all that jazz, and it got canceled 5 times because of COVID. So I didn't take the SAT and I didn't send in a score, although I really would have liked to, but I don't know. I'm lucky that they didn't ask for it this year. GPA wise, I guess I'll just talk about my grade 9 to grade 10. It was around a 96, 97 average. And for grade 11 and 12, my IB score, I think I got, for early decisions, I got predicted a 43. And for the regular ones, I think I was a 41. And yeah, I don't know which ones I ended up sending over because my counselor sent them over.
Yeah, I'm like you as well, Lucy. I was planning to take the SAT, but it got canceled multiple times. So in the
Yeah.
end, I didn't pursue it. And in the very end, I didn't decide to apply for universities in the United States because I thought that it would be something that's a bit too costly for me. And I think I can go over there for my master's and just staying local.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you're Tommy, your IB score is like
No, okay, Sunny.
yeah. So, and for me, in terms of SAT scores, like I mentioned before, I did not plan on going to the States at all. I didn't even prep for SATs, didn't like book any exams. This sounds kind of like cheesy and bad, but like getting into UCLA was kind of an accident for me, because they didn't require SAT scores anymore. I just applied. So in terms of like just my average from grade 9 on, same as Lucy, I was like a consistent 96 to 97 through grade 9 to 11, and well, grade 10. And for IB, I think my predicted score for, well, the earlier rounds was I think a 42, and then I actually dropped pretty much in the regular, but then because I only applied to UCs and Americans, so it didn't really matter. I think I dropped to like a 39 or a 40, but that's just didn't affect my application as much.
All right, yeah. How about you, Tristan? Do you still remember your grades from high school?
I don't remember the SAT. I'm sorry. I didn't use it right for grad school in the US. It's the GRE, which is an equally, in my opinion, kind of annoying test to have to take. But and then for IB, I got a 45. But I mean, that wasn't like, I forget what my offer was. It needed a certain amount. I think it was 43 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can share mine right now. So from grade 8 to 10, I don't really remember what my grades were like, but they were like fairly good, I think. So like in the 96 to 100 range average. And then in grade 11, at the end of the year, I had a IB predicted of 41. And then in grade 12, at the end of the year, I had an IB predicted of 45. I'm still awaiting my final scores, but yeah, like at the end of the day, looking back on it, I think like it would have been very, very helpful to throw a bit more time into some extracurriculars like Lucy and Sunny did. That would definitely help me out. Like, yeah, so that's my thoughts.
No, you guys are just 45s. It's amazing. Okay.
Well, any more questions? If you want, you can unmute. Actually, no, never mind. Don't unmute.
Carol is asking, can you talk about how Semi and Elgin do this in 1 or 2 years of university admission? How many students got admitted in top US universities? And what universities are they? Ooh. I guess we can first talk about Semi, right? Let's talk about the people who we do. So those going to US, we have you. We have Macuret. Where's Macuret going?
Yeah,
Let's not name drop.
UIUC, like Illinois. He's like a scholar or something there. And then we have like another one going to UIUC, Aryan. And then we have a few going to like California College of Arts. And then we have a few going to the UCs. And then just a big chunk going to UBC and SFU. A few going to UT Waterloo, that kind.
Yeah, the majority of IB students from Semi end up going to UBC for their bachelor's, whether they're taking a bachelor's in life sciences or in applied science.
Yeah, actually for this is just not related to IB, but I think the admissions to art schools this year for SEMI was actually pretty good. I have a friend, she got admitted into Cornell's architecture program. And she was in partial IB, and I also know one that got into Rhode Island for arts, and one got into Pratt for art. Those are all like just the top US or international art schools. So yeah, in terms of that, that's pretty good.
In terms of Elgin, I know a few friends. I think 1 or 2 people got into Berkeley UCs, and then like I don't know like too many Elgin friends I keep up with, but most of them are going to UBC. Some are going to like Northwestern for like the Ivy Business School, and then just a lot of Canadian schools. In terms of US, there's not that many. All I know is like one person going to UC. Oh, and NYU. There are a few that got into NYU.
One second, I'm going to type something out here.
I think we missed a question. Vicky asked, which debate academy did Sunny go to?
I went to the Vancouver Debate Academy, VDA. I think I started in grade 9, and I actually only learned there for like around 1 to 2 years-ish, because after IB I stopped learning because, well, yeah, there's just not enough time to actually go to lessons, because lessons actually took a really, really long time. It was around, I think, 2-hour lessons every single week. And then additionally, if you wanted to go to tournaments and register under the academy, you had to go to additional like training sessions. Those were like 4 hours each, and you had to go to like 2 or 3 times a week. And I just didn't have that much time to just continue learning the academy. But then still, I continued debating myself, going to tournaments and stuff.
Okay. Kelly asked, Sunny, can you share some tips on how to build a community club outside of school? It would be very helpful to me.
Okay, so in terms of building a community club, I think the main thing is that you need to have a purpose in mind. So for example, for me, I've really enjoyed debating, and I think it's really useful to basically spread the interest and just promote interest in students, and build up their passion for a potentially regarding debate, right? So that's just something that I focused on and I wanted to bring to my community. So then you can utilize like many different sets of skills, but most often wise, for student-led community clubs, it's something regarding like, okay, you're teaching something, whether it's like academics or like extracurricular such as arts or like debate. After you kind of had that mindset and purpose in place, the second step is to basically to assemble a team, right? You bring in together people with similar interests, with similar goals in mind, that have like the ability to continue on with this endeavor. Such as for my community debate club, we had to find a team of coaches around the same age, that are highly skilled in debate, that are able to coach different levels of debate experience, people of different age. And after you assemble that team, it's just up to things such as you advertise, you promote your club. Most of these are nonprofit, so if you get any money, it's really important to start early on as to thinking about where you want to put that money towards to. And personally for me, because I volunteer at a children's hospice that is in need of these constant donations, it was really clear as to where we wanted to send the money that we gained. So in terms of that, yeah, I'm not sure what else I can give regarding just building a community club, but again, it's really important to establish a basis of like your purpose and to assemble a team of students or adults who have similar passions and abilities into doing so.
Okay. The next question is from Wu. They're asking, I'm considering doing IB in SEMI. Do I need to learn French or Spanish for the second language? For the second language, in order to apply for it, or can I do Chinese for a second language?
Actually, So for your second languages, I know each year, for example, for semi, there's only one spot where you can do a self-taught second language. So, and then that spot is limited usually for people who do not or have not learned French or Spanish previously. So if you've actually been in the education system, if you've been through like French 8, French 9, French 10, or like if you had some experience learning Spanish in school or online, I don't think you're eligible for the second language in Chinese. It's mostly for the people who are not able
In
to
need
take
of
the
it.
French and Spanish courses, if I'm not wrong.
I don't think there's one spot limited. Like I think we have 5 or 4 this year taking like
Yeah.
not French or Spanish. And if you do choose to do a self-taught language, you do get like a double language diploma because like the French and Spanish that we learn at school is like language B. So it's easier. You learn more towards like grammar things and you try to like speak about global issues, like just learning the language. But if you do a self-taught language, it's like A, so you have to actually read books and do what you do in normal English class. So it is a lot harder, and you do take an extra exam in grade 12 instead of grade 11 for semi at least. So if you can avoid like a self-taught language, then do avoid it because it's a lot of work that you have to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you don't
what I meant by
really
the
have
one spot was just like, I think it's per language. So you can have multiple
No,
within the school, or
we
I don't know, I'm
have
not too sure
2
about that, but
in Chinese.
they limited the spots. Like you can't have like 10
Yeah.
people doing self-taught.
Yeah, and at
There's
the
a
end of the
cap.
day, when you do self-taught, like the name suggests, it is self-taught, and the workload is the same around the world. So you'll be competing with people who do have a teacher for that particular language that you're teaching yourself in, would be considerably difficult. So yeah, like Lucy said, avoid self-taught languages if possible. However, like if you have absolutely zero experience with French and Spanish and your English isn't that solid, which will hurt your French and Spanish mark because French and Spanish are languages that have roots that are very similar to English. If you don't have English down and you haven't taken either one of those courses before, you could try going for the self-taught path. To clarify for some of the parents or students who aren't in IB, so there's language A and language courses A and B. A is more advanced. You can do literary studies and you have to analyze the text in more depth in general. Whereas in language B, you're just learning to be able to communicate about a variety of global issues in a, I'd say, grade 5, grade 6 manner to other people in different forms of text and speech. So you have to be able to give presentations, you have to be able to do orals, you have to be able to write journals, articles, reviews of book reviews, and a bunch of other writing formats. Language
It's just
B is
harder.
yeah, language B is easier. Language A is harder.
Yeah, and also if you do a self-taught, then your predicted grades for your self-taught language is based on your English grade. So it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Okay. We have another question. What courses are in the partial IB options? I believe you can choose. You can mix and match whatever courses you want, right?
As
Or
long as it's
partial.
Yeah.
HL,
Yeah,
partial
as
is
long
just
as-
HL.
yeah.
Yeah, partial is just HL. So you can have HL geography and English. I know someone who did that 2 years ago. Or you can have HL biology, physics, chemistry. Some people do that as well. For example, Flora Poole, she graduated last year. She's going to the University of Waterloo. And then you can also do 4 HLs if you want, although the workload would be very, very high, as I've heard from some reports. So I
I
guess
think a lot of
Just-
like the semi counselors don't actually let you do 4 HLs
Mhm.
unless like you give a really, really, really solid reason. Like the chances of you getting 4 HLs and doing well in them are like very low unless you're an actual genius. And if you have enough time to do 4 HLs, then why not just take a full IB?
why not take full IB? Or why not throw some of that extra time you're using in your extra HL course into your extracurriculars? That would really help you out. Okay.
Mhm.
Our next question is from Caddy. She asks, if you only learn French as a second language, is it still possible to go to the United States?
I did.
I would
French.
say definitely, yeah. Lucy learned French. Sunny
American,
learned Spanish.
I'll quickly hop in here. American schools only, like most American schools, only require you learn one second language for 3 to 4 years. So you, I mean, even if you didn't learn a language, it would still be possible to go to the US. It's just, it's,
Yeah.
it's preferred.
And they don't really care what your second language is. Like, as far as I know, a lot of people learn Latin.
Because at
for
the
their
end
second
of the
language.
day, when you're applying for university, they're going to be looking more, they're going to put more weight on your marks for the courses that are relevant to the program that you're applying to. If you're going into, let's say, if you're trying to get into med, then they're going to weigh biology and chemistry much more heavily than, say, geography and history. So, yeah, like Lucy said, I don't think it will be a problem if you learn French as your second language. Lots of people take that in the United States in private schools as well. I've got some friends over there who do that, and they're still able to go to the universities. So, yeah, that's the answer to that question.
I mean, if you're going to the US, the only language you should be worrying about is English. A lot of them ask
English.
you if like you're fluent or native English, I guess.
Yeah. Speaking of English, have any of you here taken AP English? AP Lit?
Yep.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. What was your
Um,
experience with it?
I'm very fortunate to have very good teachers at my school. So my experience in AP Literature and AP Language have been very good. When it comes to AP courses that you take during your grade 12 years, the marks become insignificant. I know for UPenn, they pretty much don't accept any AP credit. They don't accept bio credit. They don't accept physics 1 and 2 credit. They don't accept any English credit. So for your grade 12 year, if you're taking AP, you should still take AP because you still need to demonstrate that you're still committed to academic rigor. That is when you're more focused on your school marks.
Yeah. So I've done AP Language and Literature as well, and I got a 5 there as well. I have a pretty positive experience. Like as someone who's been in both AP and IB, I can say for sure that the AP English curriculum in general is a lot more, I guess, inclusive, and it's a lot more helpful for students in the future, because in IB English, SL, and HL, you do literary studies, and that's one field of studying English. Whereas in AP, you'll learn about literary studies, but you'll also learn to write and read argumentative writing and essays, which goes hand in hand with the SAT. A lot of SAT stuff, they present you historical documents, speeches, articles, all sorts of text that tests whether or not you're able to understand what the author is saying. And being able to understand what the author is saying, that just requires a lot of practice with reading a wide variety of texts and doing lots of practice. So I'd say if you've got time, then maybe pursue that as a side thing, because it was definitely something that really interested me, AP English. It opened my mind up to a lot of stuff. All right, do we have any other questions? If not, then I think we can wrap up this seminar then. Thank you for coming here, everyone. Thank you for coming here, Tristan. It's a pleasure to have you here. Same with Lucy, Sunny, Kai. Yes. Yeah, I hope that everyone got to learn something new about university applications and I guess what to do in life in general. So ciao then.
And thank you for Tommy for hosting this.
Yeah, thank you. Great job.
Yeah,
Great job.
thank you.
No
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
everyone.
right.
Good to see you all. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Cool.
Okay, bye.